Welcome to newlytrading.com. News on some of the newest publicly traded companies on the TSXV, OTC, and on the CSE exchanges. Newly Trading is brought to you by thenewswire.com, the most affordable newswire service in North America. Get started with your free trial. Today we're talking with Steve White, CEO of Harvest Health and Recreation, Inc. Their trading symbol is HARV on the CSE exchange. Good afternoon, Steve.
Good afternoon, Jim. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for joining us today. Steve, could we start with you giving us a little bit of your public market background and maybe an overview of your senior management team?
Of course. So I spent about 15 years practicing as a lawyer representing a variety of clients, including publicly traded companies. But I myself I don't have any direct public markets experience. So I thought it was important to surround myself with people who did. So, for example, the president of our company, Steve Gutterman, has a fair amount of public markets experience. At one point, he was the COO of E-Trade Bank, and he was there from, for a number of years, going from a $1 billion company to a $35 billion bank. Recently hired CFO with public markets experience. Have a controller whose entire career is public markets. So we have a lot of people on the senior team with public markets experience over the course of their careers.
Steve, can you give us a little bit of a background, kind of the genesis of Harvest Health and Recreation?
So as a group, it was founded by a handful of people. I was one of them, and we were seeking a license in the state of Arizona. We ended up getting 2 licenses in the state of Arizona, and then started to see the opportunity for growth across the country. Felt like it was an opportunity that we couldn't pass up, and got really good at acquiring access to markets. And then we've parlayed that skill set over time into 11 states today, soon to be 14 or 15 states.
So did you start out as a company as a licensed distributor?
Actually, in Arizona, a single license entitles you to be a cultivator, a producer, and a retailer. So it was because of that license and because of that early experience, we became quite competent at all 3 parts of the supply chain for cannabis.
Well, and that was my next question, is that the strategy, it seems, with Harvest is you're a totally vertical integrated company, kind of a big area to bite off?
It is a big area to bite off, and outside of cannabis, you're not going to see too many people doing everything from agriculture to manufacturing to retail. But because of our experience in Arizona early on in cannabis, we did get quite competent at all 3 parts. As you go from state to state, you see an evolution within each state where different parts of that supply chain are more valuable at different times. So for us, it is important, because of the way that licensing works, to be competent in all 3 areas and to, at various times, do all 3 activities within a particular state.
I would assume when you're out there applying for additional licenses as they become available, that the strength that Harvest has in that vertical would play in your favor.
It is not a coincidence that we have sought licenses in 10 states and won licenses in 10 states. So you're absolutely right. That experience and being able to leverage that experience in the application process has been very helpful for our development. And importantly, it allows us to get into markets cheaper than other companies. So where some companies are going and spending tens of millions of dollars for a license, Harvest can go and apply for it, and for a couple $100,000 gain access to a market.
So what are the next milestones for Harvest?
So for us, it's grow, grow, grow. We are, and I don't mean that in the sense of growing cannabis. I mean that in the sense of the business. So we've only been trading for a couple of weeks, and we've already executed 2 significant acquisitions. First, we closed in the state of Florida. The Florida license is quite unique. It's a vertically integrated license that ultimately will allow the license holder up to 35 stores in Florida. So we were able to close that very quickly after trading. Secondly, we acquired CBX, which is effectively the parent company for Evo Labs in Colorado. Evo Labs is the most successful vaporizer company, among other products, in Colorado. And we are going to be able to quickly take some of those Evo Labs brands and put them into a number of other states. And we should have that completed by the end of the year.
Well, if people are interested in getting a little more information on Harvest Health and Recreation, how do they reach out to you?
The best place to start is probably harvestinc.com, our website. We also have a investor relations tab. So if people have specific questions of us, they can use that tab to send an email, and we'll get back to them as soon as we can.
Thank you for taking the time with us today, Steve, and continued success with Harvest Health and Recreation.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
That was Steve White, CEO of Harvest Health and Recreation, Inc., their trading symbol HARV, on the CSE exchange. That's it for this episode of NewlyTrading.com, the podcast. News on some of the newest publicly traded companies on the TSXV, OTC, and on the CSE exchanges. Newly Trading is brought to you by TheNewsWire.com, the most affordable newswire service in North America. Get started with your free trial. NewlyTrading.com and this podcast are solely intended for information purposes. If you're considering investing in securities, always consult a professional advisor. I'm Jim Ripley.